Thomas and Friends. Thomas and Diesel. Percy wasn't feeling well. His joints ached and he couldn't breathe properly. The Fat Controller came with an inspector who examined Percy all over. "You'll have to go to the works, Percy," the Fat Controller said. "They'll make you better, but it will be a long job. In the meantime, I shall have to borrow another engine." The next day, Duck heard an oily purring noise. It was Diesel. Duck hid behind the shed. "What's he come back for?" he thought crossly. "The Fat Controller sent him away in disgrace." Sir Topham Hatt was cross too, but he needed another engine and Diesel was the only one available. Later that morning, Toby met Diesel at the junction. "Oh," he said, "it's you, is it? Well, you can take these stone trucks to the harbour, and no tricks, mind." "Tricks? What, me?" he asked smoothly. "I'm just delighted to be of assistance to you really useful engines again." Thomas and Toby made it clear to Diesel that they would stand no nonsense. Diesel listened, purring quietly. "Yes, Thomas," he said soothingly. "I understand, Thomas. Of course, Thomas." The trucks knew that the Fat Controller had once sent Diesel away for troublemaking. "Let's have some fun with this oily creature," they sniggered as Diesel chugged into the yard. "Yes, Thomas," they mimicked. "Of course, Thomas. Anything you say, Thomas." Diesel could stand no more. He roared furiously. "I'll teach you." He gave the line of trucks a sharp push, shooting them fast into a siding. The oldest and rudest truck was at the front, but he saw what would happen a moment too late. "Ooh!" he screeched. "Help!" With a loud crash he hit the buffers. For a moment the unfortunate truck was squeezed between the buffers and the other wagons. Then both he and the buffers collapsed, and the broken pieces shot out into the road. The Fat Controller was furious. "You will go back to the other railway as soon as I can arrange it," he thundered. After that, Diesel was glad he was going home. A few days later, Daisy was running downhill when she felt something warm and wet splashing her wheels. At the next station she felt hot, and her joints were stiff. "You've lost your oil," said her driver. "Bertie will have to take your passengers instead." Then Thomas arrived with Annie and Clarabel. Thomas started confidently up the hill, but his wheels began to slip on Daisy's oil, and he slithered to a stop. Try as he might, Thomas couldn't stop his coaches from slipping backwards. Near the bottom of the hill were special points to divert runaway trucks off the line. Clarabel's back wheels were directed off the rails and sank firmly into the mud. "That's torn it," said the guard. He helped the passengers back to the station. Diesel was waiting at the next station, pulling his last train before going home in disgrace. He sniggered slyly when he heard about Thomas. "Serves him right," he said. Then Diesel remembered that while Thomas was blocking the single line, he couldn't get past. "Bother," thought Diesel. "I shall have to help or I can't go home." He set off to the rescue. At the oily place he stopped, before creeping carefully forward until he could be coupled to Thomas. Meanwhile, workmen had put sleepers under Clarabel to make a slope up to the line. Then they cleaned the oil off the rails and put dry sand on them. At last everything was ready. Diesel dug his wheels into the sand and pulled, but he was careful not to pull too hard in case a coupling broke. With sanded rails, Thomas could help too. The engines moved forward a little way and stopped, then a bit more, until inch by inch Clarabel came safely back onto the line. Clarabel was unhurt, so they went back for the passengers. Then, using plenty of sand, both engines pulled the train up the hill. "Thank you, Diesel," said Clarabel. "You were splendid." Diesel began to feel sorry that he was going home. Clarabel asked the Fat Controller to forgive him, and now everyone hopes that Diesel will come again. Diesel hopes so too. He'd love to be a really useful engine.